Well, here you are in Unit 2, and this is where we start really working a little deeper with personal narratives. So, again, there'll be a welcome letter, and this will be a repeat from the previous unit. If you haven't read it before, please take a moment to look it over. And the routines aren't going to be very much different. So, we're going to keep working with building stamina. Many lessons should have reached the 10-minute mark, should work pretty well. One suggestion I would give to you is to use a timer. Oftentimes we think our mini lessons are short and they tend to be longer. So keep an eye on the length. We don't want them to go longer than 10 minutes. Status of the class, you may be ready to move that out. And writing time between 20-25 minutes is a great time. And then sharing, again, now that if you haven't listened to the conferring video yet and watched that section, make sure you do. That's in the welcome section. And now you can move into a little bit more purposeful sharing in this unit. What else do I want to let you know? The material ideas are there as well. Procedures to revisit now that we have gotten to a point in our procedures. The procedures should remain fairly consistent. But you will probably want to bring those back from time to time. Modeled writing, we're going to be looking at writing across pages. So in Unit 2 is when we start writing in books. And then here's some great narrative book mentor texts that you'll want to check out. Writing goal is going to be updated. Again, this says this from Unit 1. It is not. But you'll keep your header and you'll change out that writing goal. One thing that's kind of nice to try is to have students set their writing goal with each new unit and then modify it several times throughout. It's a great way to show progress and also student ownership. These are the same as before. You'll find those in the chart section. No change in the continuum, but it's a great one to have. If you are not really sure where to go with a student, this is a great place to also look as far as picking some writing goals. So here's an overview of the unit. Again, these are lessons that can be moved around. They are in a certain order for a reason. However, every class is different, so if you feel like you need to move them around, feel free to do that. Just make sure you return back to and make sure you hit each of these lessons. Mini lessons, again, we're going to have a little bit longer mini lessons, and then the modeled writing is there, and you can see that I have modeled writing the who and did what, or who, what, and then did what. So each of these lessons are going to help strengthen your students' idea of making books. So this is a huge shift for this unit. Before we were doing a page a day. Now we're going to be going into writing a page across multiple days. That's the way writers work. We want to model how we think about writing even when we're not writing. And so that's why we want to have them write across several pages. To do that, go ahead and grab those writing paper samples. It's in the introduction area. So grab the writing the writing pages. Go ahead and grab those student writing pages. I'll get it eventually. Get the student writing pages and make some pre-made books. I usually would have a cover with 3 or 4 pages connected to it and staple those, and then students will start to write books. You'll want to model how you're thinking across pages. So the way that I would do that, for example, this was a book that I had written about me going to visit my sister. I would open up the blank book and I would touch each page thinking about what I would put on those pages. So that's a way of sort of a graphic organizer, making students think ahead and remember what they're going to write about. If they can't fill up that book with what they're going to put on each page, they probably don't have enough to write about. So that's a mini lesson that we're going to be working on as well. Okay, so I would model. I went to go to California to see my sister. We did this, we did this, we did this, we did this. We get to the end of the book. Now I'm ready to write. I write that first page. The next day, I revisit what I already wrote, talk about what I had planned, and then add the next page. So we're constantly going back and rereading what we've already written and what we're going to write next. That's something that's really, really important. And oftentimes students don't do that automatically. So we want to make sure we've rewritten what I've already written and then think about what we're going to add on. So every year when you go from, by the time you get to done with unit 1, it's going really well. And now you're like, why do I want to change it for unit 2? And every year that I would start writing books, I'm like, this is the worst idea ever. Like, I think, why would I want to do this? Everything was working fine, 1 page at a time. Or I would think my students aren't ready for this. I taught at a Title I school. So I taught at the most difficult school. So I promise you, if my students are ready for it, your students are ready for it as well. But here's what I'm going to tell you. It's kind of magical. It's just a little bit messy at the beginning. So you just got to stick with it. Just like everything else, you got to kind of fake it till you make it. Stick with it. What will happen on the first couple of days, you'll have students who want to write as many books as possible. I have a solution on how to fix that. So make sure you find that lesson. Let that go until you get to a certain lesson. And I have a solution in there for you. So make sure you find that. So again, these mini lessons are all spelled out for you. No major surprises in here. When you get down to around lesson 16, you're going to have an opportunity to go back and revisit lessons that you've already taught. It could be lessons from this unit or from the previous one. If you feel like you need to reteach something, great time to do it. And then here's that procedure checklist. I told you it's going to look a little bit different. So you're going to go through and see, maybe you don't need to reteach anything, but maybe you do. So this is give you some ideas of, maybe I need to revisit that lesson about how we take care of pencils and crayons, or how we need to work in a quiet place. So that's an opportunity for you to do that. So great way for you to kind of plan ahead. If you're like, this is driving me crazy. If students are driving you crazy about something, it usually will remind you that that's something you need to revisit. It'd be lovely if we could teach something once and students master it, but they don't. We just have to keep reminding them. And then again, the sharing lesson. So lesson 16, 17, and 18 is about revisiting. Number 19 is about finding a story that they want to go back and edit to make better. And then when we get to the final day, day 20, is when we have a celebration. So that is, in a nutshell, what you would find in Unit 2. Happy writing.